Hello, my dear friends. Thank you for coming to sit with me for a little while. They say a mother's love is a safe harbor. It's the one place you're always supposed to be able to dock your boat, no matter how stormy the sea gets. For my whole life, I believed that. I built my entire world around being that safe harbor for my son. But life has a way of teaching you lessons you never knew you needed to learn. Sometimes the storm doesn't come from the ocean, it comes from the harbor itself. This is a story I never thought I'd tell. It's about the day I learned that the most painful goodbyes aren't the ones said with tears and waving hands. They're the ones said with a smile, in a room full of people, when you realize the person you'd die for doesn't truly see you at all. If you've ever given your all to someone, only to have them hand it to someone else without a second thought, then you already know a little piece of my heart. So please, make yourself a cup of tea, get comfortable, and listen, because my story, it might just save you from learning a lesson the hard way, like I did. My name is Carol. For 30 years, I worked as a secretary at the same small high school in our town. The pay wasn't much, but the benefits were good, and it allowed me to be home when my son Mark got out of school. His father, my dear Robert, passed away from a heart attack when Mark was only 10, so it was just the two of us against the world. We were a team, a small but mighty team. I remember pinching pennies until Abraham Lincoln screamed. We ate a lot of casseroles that could last for 3 days. I saved for his college fund dollar by dollar in a big glass jar on the counter. We'd clink the coins in together every Friday night. He was such a good boy. He'd help me clip coupons. He never complained about wearing hand-me-downs from his cousins. He understood that love wasn't about fancy things. It was about being together. When he graduated and got into a good state college, I was so proud I thought my heart would burst. That college fund jar paid for his books and a little bit more. He worked part-time to cover the rest. He never had to take out a single student loan. And let me tell you, in this day and age, that felt like winning the lottery. After he graduated and got a job in the city, the house felt so quiet. It was just me and my routines: work, church, tending my little garden. I lived in that same small house Robert and I had bought together, the one with the mortgage we finally paid off 5 years early. It was my sanctuary. Then, 2 years ago, the school district offered an early retirement package. It was a good one. Not a fortune, but for a woman who's been careful with her money her whole life, it was a lifeline. It was security. It was the reward for all those years of getting up at 5:30 a.m., of typing memos, of organizing filing cabinets. It was my chance to finally breathe. For the first few months, I just enjoyed the quiet. I slept in, I read books, I visited with my girlfriends for lunch. But a mother's mind, it always wanders to her children. My son, Mark, had married his college sweetheart, Chloe, about a year and a half before. She was a pretty sharp girl from the city. She had a big job in marketing and always seemed to be in a hurry. I'll be honest, we were never close. She was polite, always called me Carol, never Mom. There was a distance there I could never quite bridge, no matter how many of my famous pot roasts I made for them. They were renting a nice apartment, but I knew they'd dreamed of buying a house. I'd hear them talk about it at holidays. "The market is just impossible, Mom," Mark would say, running a hand through his hair. Chloe would nod, her lips pressed into a thin line. "With my student loans and his car payment, it feels like we'll never get ahead." It broke my heart to see them stressed. And sitting in my paid-off house, with my retirement money sitting safely in the bank, a thought began to grow in my mind. A mother's thought. What was I saving it all for, really? A fancy cruise? I'm a simple woman. New furniture? The old couch suited me just fine. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. That money wasn't for me. It was for him. It was always for him. Robert would have wanted that. We both worked so hard to give him a better start than we had. So I made a decision. It felt like the biggest, most generous decision of my life. I decided to give Mark and Chloe a large gift, a massive down payment. I went to the bank and transferred $50,000 into a new account, just in my name, ready to be gifted. $50,000. It was more money than I had ever held at one time in my entire life. It represented a lifetime of saying no to little things so I could one day say yes to this one big thing for him. I decided to tell him in private. I didn't want to make a show of it. I didn't want my brother David or his kids to feel any kind of way. This was just between a mother and her son. I invited Mark over for Sunday dinner, just the two of us. Chloe was away visiting her own family. I made his favorite, meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and green beans from my garden. The house smelled like love and nostalgia. We ate, we laughed, we talked about old times. My heart was so full. After dessert, I brought out the bank statement. I slid it across the table to him. "Mark," I said, my voice a little shaky, "I want you to have this." He looked at the paper, then at me, his brow furrowed. "Mom, what's this?" "It's for you and Chloe," I said, tears starting to well in my eyes. "It's for your future, for a down payment on a house, or to pay off those student loans you're always worried about, or to invest. It's yours, no strings attached." He was silent for a long time, just staring at the number. Then he looked up at me, and I saw my little boy in his eyes. "Mom, this is too much. I can't accept this. This is your retirement." "And my retirement will be just fine," I said, reaching for his hand. "Seeing you secure and happy in your own home, that is my retirement dream come true. Please, let me do this for you both." He got up and hugged me so tight, he had tears in his eyes. "Thank you, Mom, thank you. I promise we'll be smart with this. I promise." In that moment, I was the happiest I had been in years. I had done it. I had set my boy up for success. I felt like I had finally, truly done my job as a mother. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The future was bright. Oh, how naive I was. The weeks went by. Mark would call and give me little updates. "We're looking at mortgage rates, Mom," or "We found a realtor we really like." I was over the moon. I felt included, important. Then came my brother David's annual summer barbecue. David is my older brother, a retired mechanic with a heart of gold and a laugh that can fill a stadium. He's the family rock. His backyard was always the gathering place, full of aunts, uncles, cousins, the smell of charcoal and the sound of kids splashing in the little pool. That day was picture perfect. The sun was warm, the sky was blue. I arrived with my famous potato salad, feeling light and happy. Mark and Chloe were there. Mark gave me a big hug. Chloe gave me her usual, polite, tight-lipped smile. Everything felt normal. As the afternoon went on, people were laughing, sharing stories. David had fired up the grill, and we were all filling our plates. I was sitting at a picnic table with my sister-in-law talking about her new rose bushes when David clinked his fork against his beer bottle. "All right, everybody, quiet down," he boomed, his face flush and happy. "I just want to say how good it is to have all my favorite people in one place." Everyone cheered. Then, to my surprise, Mark stood up. He had a glass of wine in his hand, and he had that look on his face, the one he used to get when he was about to tell me he'd aced a test. "I'd like to say something too," he said, his voice a little too loud. "I'd like to make a toast." My heart swelled with pride. This is it, I thought. He's going to announce they found a house. He's going to thank me in front of everyone. I sat up a little straighter, ready to receive the love. He raised his glass. First to my beautiful wife, Chloe. He smiled at her, and she smiled back, a proud, knowing look on her face. She is just amazing. She's not just the love of my life, she's the brains of this operation. People chuckled politely. I mean it. Mark continued, swaying just a little. She's so smart with money. She's got a mind for investments, for planning. She's a wizard. A tiny cold finger of unease traced its way down my spine. Why was he talking about money? He turned his gaze from Chloe and looked right at my brother David. In fact, Uncle David, she's so good, I knew the second I got it what I had to do. The backyard grew quiet. All the chatting stopped. Everyone was looking at Mark. Got what, son? David asked, his friendly smile still in place. And then my son, my only child, puffed out his chest. With a beaming, proud-as-punch smile, he said the words that would shatter my world. The money from Mom, he announced, as if it were the most brilliant news in the world. I gave all the money from my mother to my wife. Every single dollar of it. It's all in her hands now. She's going to manage it and make it grow for our future. He said it. He said it to my brother, to all my cousins, to my neighbors, to everyone. The silence that followed was heavier than any I have ever known. It was a physical weight, pressing down on my chest, stealing the air from my lungs. I could feel every pair of eyes in that backyard flick from my son's proud face to mine. I saw the shock on David's face. I saw the pity in my sister-in-law's eyes. My face felt like it was on fire. The private, sacred gift I had given him, the symbol of my life's work and a mother's love, had just been announced like a sports score. And not just announced, handed over, surrendered, to his wife of 18 months. I felt the potato salad I'd eaten turn to stone in my stomach. I looked at Chloe. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking at Mark with a smug, satisfied little smile, as if to say, "See, I told you I had it handled." Mark, completely oblivious to the devastation he had just caused, clinked his glass with Chloe's and took a big sip, as if waiting for applause. There was none, just a deafening, awkward silence. My brother David, God bless him, cleared his throat. Well, he said, his voice strained, that's, something. Let's get some more burgers on the grill. The spell was broken. People quickly started talking again, their voices low and hurried, desperately trying to cover up the awkwardness. But the joy of the day was gone. It had been sucked out, replaced by a thick, uncomfortable haze. I don't know how long I sat there, frozen. It felt like hours. I could feel my heart beating in my ears. All of it, I thought. He gave her all of it to manage? He didn't pay off a loan. He didn't put it in a house fund. He just signed it over. My sacrifice, my security, was now in the hands of a young woman I barely knew, who called me Carol. I had to get out of there. I mumbled an excuse about a headache, gathered my things, and practically ran to my car. I didn't look at Mark. I couldn't. If I saw his face, I would have either screamed or collapsed. The drive home was a blur. Tears streamed down my face so hard I could barely see the road. It wasn't about the money, not really. It was about the betrayal, the utter lack of respect, the foolishness. He had taken the most significant gift of his life and treated it like a $5 bill handed to a child. He didn't see the years of work it represented. He didn't see the love. All he saw was a number that he could pass to his wife to earn her praise. When I got home, I collapsed onto my sofa and sobbed. I sobbed for Robert, who wasn't here to help me through this. I sobbed for the little boy who used to clink coins into a jar with me. I sobbed for the woman who had worked so hard for so long only to have her life's work tossed away so carelessly. About an hour later, my phone rang. It was David. "Carol," he said, his voice tight with the controlled anger I rarely heard from him. "How in the good Lord's name was that? How much money are we talking about?" Through my tears, I told him. $50,000. He was silent for a moment. Then he whispered, "Good grief, Carol. He gave $50,000 of your retirement money to that girl? Just handed it over?" "I said he did," I cried, "in front of everyone." "That boy has lost his ever-lovin' mind," David said, his voice firm. "Carol, listen to me. This is not okay. This is not just a mistake. This is financial insanity. You have to do something." "What can I do, David?" I wailed. "I gave it to him. It was a gift." "A gift for a house, a gift for his future, not a gift for his wife to play stock market with," he shot back. "You need to talk to a lawyer, first thing Monday morning." A lawyer? The thought made me sick. Sue my own son? The idea was unthinkable. "I can't do that, David. I can't." "Carol," he said, his voice softening, "you're not suing him. You're protecting yourself. You're finding out what your rights are. You need to know. Please, for me, let me come with you." The next 2 days were the longest of my life. I didn't answer the phone when Mark called. I let it go to voicemail. His messages were confused at first. "Hey, Mom, you left in a hurry. Everything okay?" Then they became slightly defensive. "Mom, are you upset about something? Call me back." Upset? Oh, my boy, if you only knew. On Monday morning, David picked me up and drove me to a small law office in the next town over. We sat across from a kind-faced, no-nonsense woman named Attorney Miller. I told her the whole story, my voice trembling the entire time. I showed her the bank transfer records. I told her exactly what Mark had said at the barbecue. Attorney Miller listened carefully, taking notes. When I was finished, she took off her glasses. "Carol," she said gently, "what your son did was incredibly foolish and hurtful. Legally, a gift is generally a gift. Once it's given, it's theirs." My heart sank. "However," she continued, "there is a legal concept called promissory estoppel. It essentially means that if a person makes a promise that leads another to rely on it to their detriment, that promise can be enforced. More relevant here might be unjust enrichment. You gave this money with a clear, though unstated purpose, for a down payment or to pay off debt. It was given in the context of a familial relationship, with an expectation of how it would be used for his long-term stability. By handing it directly to his wife for management, and with the public admission that it's no longer being used for its intended purpose, he has potentially violated the spirit of that gift." She leaned forward. "You may have a case to demand the return of the funds, as the conditions of the gift have been fundamentally breached." A flicker of hope ignited in my chest. "So I can get it back?" "You can demand it back," she corrected. "We can send a formal letter from this office outlining the situation and stating that the funds were given for a specific purpose, which is not being honored. We can demand a full accounting of the money and its return. Often, the threat of legal action is enough to shock some sense into people, especially when it involves a public spectacle like the one you described." I looked at David. He gave me a firm nod. "Do it, Carol." My hands were shaking. This felt so aggressive, so final. It felt like declaring war on my own child. But as I thought about his proud smile, about the humiliation, about my life's work being treated like a toy, a new feeling began to grow inside me. A steely resolve. I had to do this. Not for the money, for the principle, for the lesson he desperately needed to learn. Okay, I whispered. Then I said it louder. Okay, send the letter. 2 days later, I called Mark. I asked him to come over to my house, alone. When he arrived, he looked nervous. Mom, what's going on? You've been ignoring my calls. And what was that at the barbecue? You embarrassed me in front of everyone. I took a deep breath. The anger I had been feeling had cooled into a deep, profound disappointment. I looked at my son, this grown man, and I felt a sorrow so heavy I could barely hold it. Mark, I said, my voice surprisingly steady, you embarrassed me. You betrayed a sacred trust. That money was not just a number in a bank account. It was my life. It was every early morning, every missed vacation, every no I ever said to myself so I could one day say yes to you. He opened his mouth to protest, but I held up my hand. I am not finished. You publicly announced a private gift, which was humiliating, but far, far worse, you handed every penny of it over to your wife. You abdicated all responsibility for your future. You showed a level of foolishness I did not think you were capable of. Chloe is good with money, he insisted, his face turning red. She's gonna invest it. She has a plan. Does she? I asked quietly. I want to see it. What? I want a full, transparent accounting of my $50,000. I want bank statements. I want to know where every single cent is right now. And if it's invested, I want to see the investment statements. He stared at me as if I'd grown a second head. You can't be serious. That's our money now. You gave it to us. I gave it to you, Mark, for a specific purpose. And based on legal advice I have received, your decision to divert it for another purpose means you may no longer be entitled to it. The color drained from his face. Legal advice, Mom? What are you talking about? I'm talking about a letter that will be arriving from my attorney tomorrow. It will formally demand a full accounting and the return of the funds. The shock on his face was almost comical. You're suing me? Your own son? I am teaching you a lesson you should have learned a long time ago. That money came with my blood, sweat, and tears attached. It was not a toy for you to hand to your wife to make her feel important. Now, you will go home, and you will ask your wife for that accounting, and you will bring it to me. He left my house that night pale and shaken. I cried for another hour after he was gone. It felt like I had just thrown my child into the deep end of the pool to teach him to swim. It was brutal. The next 24 hours were silent. Then, the storm hit. My doorbell rang late the following evening. It was Mark. His eyes were red and wild. He looked like he hadn't slept. She's gone, Mom, he choked out, stumbling into my living room. Who's gone? Chloe. We had a huge fight after I told her about the lawyer. She called me a mama's boy. She said horrible things. And then she told me. He broke down, sobbing into his hands. She told me the money is gone. The world seemed to slow down. Gone where? She had a bunch of credit card debt she never told me about from before we were married. $5,000. She paid it off. And her brother? He wanted to start a food truck. He needed an investor. She gave him $25,000 of it. She said it was a sure thing. The food truck failed in 3 weeks, Mom. The money is gone. I sat down heavily. $25,000 for a failed food truck. $5,000 for secret debt. That was $30,000. Vanished, just like that. My 30,000 early mornings. My 30,000 bagged lunches. Gone. The rest, he mumbled, is still in her personal checking account. She said she was going to use it for a new car for herself. I didn't say anything. I just let the silence hang there, let the weight of his colossal mistake crush him. He had trusted the wrong person with the most important gift of his life, and he had lost it. "I'm so sorry, Mom," he wept. "I'm so sorry. I was an idiot. I just, I wanted her to be happy. I wanted her to think I trusted her." "And what about me, Mark?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Did you want me to be happy? Did you trust me, the woman who spent 30 years building that money for you?" He had no answer. He just cried. That was 6 months ago. The dust has settled now. My attorney was able to recover the 20,000 that was left in Chloe's account. The other 30,000, well, that's gone forever. A very, very expensive lesson. He comes to see me sometimes. The shame is still there in his eyes. We are trying to rebuild. But it's like building a house after a hurricane. The foundation is cracked. The trust is gone. I will always love him. He is my son. But the blind, unconditional faith I had in him, that is gone. I forgave him. I had to, for my own peace. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean going back to the way things were. I did change my will. Everything I have left will go into a trust for any future grandchildren, for their education. Mark will not be able to touch it. And me? I'm okay. I'm stronger than I thought. I took my $20,000 back and I put it in my own savings account. I joined a book club. I started volunteering at the local library. I'm living my life for me for the first time. The dream of a relaxed retirement is different now. It's quieter. It's more solitary. But it's mine. Truly mine. So, my dear friends, that is my story. It's a story about a mother's love, a son's foolishness, and a betrayal that cost more than just money. It cost us our innocence. If you take anything from my pain, let it be this. Love your children with all your heart. Give them everything you can, but teach them the value of a dollar earned. Teach them respect. And for heaven's sake, if you are ever thinking of giving a large gift, get it in writing. State the purpose. Protect your own heart. Because sometimes the safest harbor you can be is for yourself. This journey has been so hard. But sharing it with you, knowing that my story might help someone else out there, that has given my pain a purpose. If you are watching this and you understand this kind of heartache, if you've ever felt that sting of betrayal from someone you loved most, then you are not alone. We are a community of healing hearts. And if my story has touched you, if you want to follow along as I navigate this new chapter of my life, then please, I am asking you from the bottom of my healing heart to subscribe to this channel. By subscribing, you are not just clicking a button. You are pulling up a chair to my kitchen table. You are becoming part of my extended family. You are telling me that my voice matters, that my story matters. And your story matters too. Let's heal together. Please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next conversation. And if you have the strength, share your own story in the comments below. Let's support each other. Let's be the safe harbor for one another. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your kindness. God bless you. And I'll see you next time.